We've been joined by, in no particular order, but Councilmember Sonia Frederick, Councilmember Joyce Love, Councilmember Meghan Keegan, I think, Councilmember Hyde Clarke. We have Lillian Moy, who is the former Director of Legal Aid of Northeast New York. We have Arbor Hill Neighborhood Association President Brenda Robinson, wave. We have recovering council members Joe Igoe and Cathy Fahey with us today. How's the recovery going? We have John Maxwell, 9th Ward Leader, Judith Mazza, the 1st Ward Leader, and I think that includes all the dignitaries for today. We don't have, unfortunately, Jahmel Robinson and Councilmember Deb Zamer, Councilmember Robinson, Councilmember Zamer, who are otherwise indisposed with work duties today. So we all know what we're here for today, and my job is to MC, so I first want to introduce our state senator, Neil Breslin, to get things going.
Thank you very much, Darius. And I don't know whether a lot of you know, but I used to be a senator in New York State. And it's a lot more comfortable right now because I can be totally frank and honest. And it's my intention not to be at a lot of events like this, but to do other things. But I'm here because there's an exception, this exception to the rule. And I've known David now for a number of years, working closely with the mayor's office, and he checks all my boxes, and I think it should be all of your boxes. He's bright, he's honest, he works hard, he's thoughtful. I never think that, I don't think, his wife told me otherwise, I don't think there's an angry bone in his body. But he's, to me, what an elected official should be. He marks all those boxes. And when you mark all the boxes, your first consideration is the people you represent. And David Galin is that kind of a person, and I'm so delighted to be here, and so delighted to have David as the next auditor of the City of Albany. Thank you very much.
All right, up next we have former DCJS and OASIS Deputy Commissioner Sean Byrne, who was one of David's mentors from growing up in Greene County. Sean?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, and thank you very much, Darius, the Albany City Treasurer. You're going to be a key ally of Mr. Galin when he becomes the next Chief City Auditor of the City of Albany. I have to tell you, folks, I'm delighted to be here this afternoon with Senator Breslin. Senator Breslin has been a stalwart champion of the Capital District, and when he was in the Senate, before his well-deserved retirement, he was a leader. People respected him. They wanted to know what his point of view was. He worked across the aisles. He was a real superstar. I want to thank Joe Bonilla, for hosting us today. That's brilliant of you and kind. And I'd like to tell you how pleased I am to be here today with Albany's Mayor, Cathy Sheehan. She has done a very admirable job as mayor of New York State's capital city. Being the mayor of Albany is no easy task. So, I've known David Galin for most of David's life. I can speak with conviction about David's quality and character, about why he is so well suited to be the next city auditor of the City of Albany. I can tell you when David told me about his plans to become a lawyer when he was a teenager in high school. I can tell you how I watched him go to SUNY Albany and Albany Law School, and not just graduate, but excel at both of those institutions. As a young adult, David Galin demonstrated intelligence, perseverance, and fidelity. I can tell you of David's commitment to serving the people of the Albany community through not-for-profit organizations. It's much better when I put my glasses on. I respected his work with the United Way of the Greater Capital Region, managing the volunteer income tax assistance sites, and working with the Legal Aid Society of Northeastern New York in its low-income taxpayer clinic. And I can tell you about David's service to the City of Albany through his boss and mentor, Mayor Cathy Sheehan, where he rose, of course, to become the mayor's chief of staff. David has risen to the top for all the right reasons, for being earnest, by working hard, by having common sense, by acting with integrity, by doing the right thing no matter the consequences. David Galin also has the qualifications to be the chief auditor of the city of Albany. Integrity, knowledge of the city budget, and experience in overseeing its administration. As Mayor Sheehan's chief of staff, David worked with the budget director to help craft the city budget. He worked with the Common Council to negotiate amendments to the budget, and he ensured that the budget blueprint was executed with fidelity. The chief auditor of Albany reports to the most important political authority in the city. That's the voter. That's the taxpayer. David Galin is the candidate with experience ensuring city programs are achieving their intended purpose, the practical and educational grounding to ensure that taxpayer funds are being spent legally and in compliance with appropriate regulations, and a track record of professional and personal integrity. David Galin has earned the voters' support and trust and deserves to be the next elected Chief City Auditor of the City of Albany. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Up next, we have a fellow UAlbany classmate during David's time wearing the purple and gold, and that's the owner of this facility that we're in, Joe Bonilla, owner of Motor Oil Coffee and Relentless Awareness.
Thank you, Darius. So, usually I'm the one back there behind the cameras running the show, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I would be remiss to mention how I met David 15 short years ago at UAlbany. It should come to no surprise that a number of us were involved in student government at UAlbany. And so I was in the student senate. David was nominated because we had a very similar government to the federal government. So he was nominated to the Supreme Court by the outgoing president of the Student Association. Our Senate rejected David outright. And so for years later, and this was before Merrick Garland, okay? So for years, this was a thing. So then when he started working for the city of Albany, he said, "Oh, hi, Joe. I remember you from the Senate days." And I'm like, oh my God, I'm paying for the sins of everybody. And so, but since then, he never held it against me, as far as I know. But since then, from his first role as a senior policy advisor, working as a deputy chief of staff and now chief of staff, I know no one better that has been accessible, who has been accountable in city government. Every time there's a challenge that we have with a client for a business concern, he has always been there. He's been a problem solver. He's been somebody who has truly tried to figure out how can we make government work better. And we need more people like David Galin in government. And so as Chief City Auditor, he's somebody who's going to be accessible and accountable to the City of Albany, to our residents, to our businesses, to our community leaders. He's somebody that really, truly, students can look up to, and hopefully they won't do the same thing to those students as I did to you. But I'm so pleased to be here, and I will leave with one last note here. David is so accountable and accessible and helpful. He actually helped install that TV with me. Up in the thing. So thanks again. David, we're all for you.
Thanks, Joe. All right. Up next, we have David's boss with a few words to say about him, I think. Mayor Cathy Sheehan.
Thank you so much. And who are we kidding? David is my boss. But in my role as mayor, it's not uncommon for people to approach me, particularly young people who are interested in politics and interested in elective office, to ask me, what do I need to do to run for elective office? And I consistently tell them one thing: volunteer in your community. Get to know the people that you want to serve. even those who you may never have known had you not actually gotten to know your community. It's easy to think that you have answers and solutions, and many of the young people who approach me have wonderful ideas, but governing is about ensuring that you are in service to the community that you are elected to govern. And David Galin is a person who has been in service to his community his whole life. It started in his childhood. It started in his understanding that we all exist in a community, and we are all called upon to step up and do our part in that community with whatever gifts and talents and abilities that we have. And it is something that I have seen in him throughout his entire career. Even back in the United Way Vita days, when I became really such a proponent of ensuring that people knew that they didn't have to pay someone to do their taxes, that most working class families in the city of Albany and most folks in the city of Albany could get their taxes done for free and should not be having to pay exorbitant amounts of money to get their taxes done. But this was something that he did because he believed in it. And that's what he chose to do with his legal training, put himself in service to the community at legal aid, and then come and work for the city of Albany. And so when he told me that he was thinking about running for office, I was actually shocked, because in his role as my chief of staff, he's seen a lot. And over the last few years, there has truly been a shift in how elected officials are treated, in the discourse that exists, and yet he still wants to put himself out there and serve. And that speaks to how deeply he cares about this city. He knows we still have a tremendous amount of work to do. He knows that we will never stake a claim to perfection, and that we can do better by our residents. And that's always been the metric that he has used to measure whether or not we are doing our jobs. Are we meeting the needs of our residents? Are we meeting the needs of our businesses? Are we meeting the needs of those who need to access services in our city? Are we meeting the expectations of those who live here and those who want to ensure that they have the ability to be a homeowner here, to have stability for their family, to have access to good jobs and to a good education? That is what he is committed to. But I have to add another, and I don't want to overstate it, but I was on the WAMC roundtable this morning, and one of my fellow panelists posited what we are going to be potentially seeing after January 20th. And he hypothesized an exchange that could take place in the Oval Office, where the President of the United States proposed something that was against the law and was advised by his advisors that it was against the law. And the President could say, the Supreme Court has said that I'm immune, and I'll just pardon you. So let's go ahead and do it. And so it's a scenario that is so almost impossible for us to even think about, but yet it is possible. And when I think about David Galin and his integrity, his commitment to our Constitution and to our democratic values, that is a scenario that could never happen with him in the room. He will be accountable to the people who elect him. He loves this community, he loves this country, and he will stand firm against that very type of scenario in which our government could be used in a way that is completely outside the rule of law. I have relied on his counsel for many years, and I know that he comes from a place of service. He comes from a place of integrity. And he will do everything in his power to ensure that the taxpayers, the residents, the people of this city and this community are protected. And he will work to make them proud of their city government and the services that we provide and the work that our workforce does day in and day out. I am so excited about the potential for the progress that our city will make under David's leadership as city auditor. And I am so grateful to him for his willingness to continue to serve. We will be in amazing hands with our next Chief City Auditor, David Galin.
Thank you. I used to tell people that you never want to speak after Mayor Sheehan, and I've now committed the greatest sin that could be. So thank you, Mayor, very, very much for those kind remarks. And then Darius, Senator Breslin, Sean, Joe, thank you. And thank you to each of you for being here and joining me today. It's truly an honor. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. As you may have gleaned from our tremendous speakers, my name is David Galin. I am a proud Democrat, son of a union mechanic, and a resident of Albany's Helderberg neighborhood, and it is my true honor to announce that I am running to become Albany's next Chief City Auditor. I'm running to become your watchdog in City Hall. I want to save hard-earned taxpayer dollars, and I want to continue to solve the problems our residents face. And these aren't just buzzwords to me. I live and breathe this work every day. It started way back in the town of Hunter, in Greene County, sleepy little community about an hour south of here, a place where everybody knew each other's name and where everyone took great pride in the community that they resided. Growing up, we only had one TV in our house, which also happened to be my dad's retirement gift from UPS after serving for 30 years as a mechanic. But it was one of those tube TVs that had the faux wood paneling and also required 4 grown humans to move anywhere. I actually think it still might be there as a bookcase, but we won't talk about that. My dad always watched the 5 and 6 o'clock news that aired from Albany on that TV. And being the nerd that I am, I would sit on the floor and watch the news with him. I learned about this distant, seemingly far away place. I would often hear about some of the challenges as well as the exciting events, but whenever we heard about Albany, to me, it seemed out of reach. Luckily, I've had people like Sean who instilled in me the meaning of public service, what it means to help improve the place you live. Sean taught me the importance of ethics, integrity, and appreciating where you came from. And Sean also lit a spark in me and made me realize that I could be more than the Eagle Scout in the Catskill Mountains. And when it came time to spread my wings and be the first in my family to attend a 4-year college, I was proud to choose UAlbany. There, as you've now already heard, Joe and I met, and Joe, again, was very involved in student government, something I aspired to, and even though he Merrick Garlanded me before Merrick Garland existed, I didn't let that get me down. I grew from my experiences at UAlbany, and years later, I realized how true the idea of Smallbany really is when I met Joe again working on Mayor Sheehan's campaign. Joe did indeed apologize for blocking my appointment, just to be very clear. And we are great friends to this day. When I wasn't sure whether to move back to Hunter after college or chase my dream of becoming an attorney, Sean was there again to open my eyes and make me realize how you can use a legal education to help better your community. Sean encouraged me to take a chance on the city that I recalled being too big and too distant from when I was that kid watching the news with my dad. It was during that time at UAlbany and Albany Law where I began to learn about how special this city truly is. I learned about its unique history, its vibrant neighborhoods. I met people who lived here and who loved to live here because they cared. And best of all, I met many of you, including my best friend and my biggest supporter, Kaylee. Kaylee deserves a round of applause, to be very clear. And through working at United Way, Legal Aid, in the last 10 years in the city of Albany, my dedication to integrity, ethics, and public service remains stronger than ever. Thanks to the tireless leadership of Mayor Sheehan, we right-sized the city budget, we built up our fund balance, and we did more with less. We led our city through a global pandemic and the immediate recovery afterwards. We invested $81 million from the American Rescue Plan to address some of the greatest challenges the city has faced and continues to face to this day. And we're one step closer to securing $400 million for downtown Albany. We did all this through a lens of equity, particularly during the pandemic. We brought food and masks to our most vulnerable residents. When we saw inequities in the vaccine rollout, we reached out to trusted community voices like Joyce Love, Sonia Frederick, Jahmel Robinson, and Brenda Robinson. We worked alongside them to bring vaccines directly to our residents. We've been through a lot over the last 10 years, as the mayor alluded to, and the only time I cried in this job was seeing the pure joy and relief on the faces of the residents at Westview Towers that very first day at the very first vaccine clinic, when we realized that we were literally helping save people's lives. It was one of the greatest feelings I've ever had in this job, and it's what drives me every single day. As a senior leader in municipal government, I've worked to enhance public safety, improve quality of life, deliver essential city services, create more affordable housing at every income level, and transform our neighborhoods with world-class amenities. But I don't do this work for the accolades or the pay. I don't do it because it would look good on a resume, and I don't want this job because it's the next opportunity on a career ambitions chart. I do this work because I care. I do this work because Albany, my once adopted city, is my home. I do this because I want our city to be a better place for everyone. And I truly believe our future has never been brighter. Thank you for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you all on the campaign trail.